Welcome to Betting Weekly WTA, the women's tennis betting podcast, brought to you in association with Bet Rivers. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favourite podcast provider. And tell us what you think in the comments. And don't forget to follow us on social media. The handle is @BecauseWeWin. We've also got the Betting Weekly newsletter with picks on various sports from all of our handicappers. I'm Rory Jiwani. With me is Nigel Seeley to look ahead to the final grass court tournaments before Wimbledon. There's a 500 in Bad Homburg and a 250 at Eastbourne. It's been another crazy week on the WTA. Nigel, I suppose we've got to start with the return of Marketa Vondrausova, beating my pick Madison Keys in round one in Berlin and knocking out world number one Aryna Sabalenka on her way to the title. But rotten luck with your pick, Ludmila Samsonova. She beat the defending champion Jessica Pegula. She got to the semis and lost to Xinyu Wang. Our luck has got to change soon, Nige.
Yeah, to be honest with you, Rory, it was one of the disappointments of the season so far for me, Samsonova. Obviously, we're better at 50-1 to win it. So all she had to do was win that match when she was minus 250 with Bet Rivers to beat Wang to get into the final. We would have cashed at 25-1. So it really hurt, that one. I honestly, that was really hurt. I mean, some of the ones, we've had a bit of bad luck, actually. We bet a lot of players who've got to semi-finals, quarterfinals, but haven't gone on to win it. But, Samsonova at 50-1 was the wrong price. She gets to the semi-final, she's minus 250, and she can't get the job done against Wang. Yeah, very disappointing, really. And also, I felt a bit disappointed with Noskova. I thought the tournament was there for the opening to take in there as well, in Nottingham as well. And your pick as well, Katie Bolter. She was 4-2 up, going in a place for the semi-final. We would have had Bolter up against Noskova, so we would have guaranteed a finalist. And she blew it away from 4-2 in the final set. So it was a disappointing week, but the only thing I can take positive out of it is that hopefully we're using up all our bad luck before we go into Wimbledon, and we get a bit of good luck going into Wimbledon, because it was tough. It was a tough week last week, really tough week to take. And it was a really bad day yesterday. Saturday was a really bad day. Semi-finalists on this show, semi-finalists on Game Bet Match as well, Jack Draper, both of them getting beat from positions where we looked like we were going to cash at least a place money to lose it in them circumstances. I'd rather lose in the first round than lose like that. But anyway, disappointing.
Yeah, very much so. But onwards and upwards, and we're heading for Bad Homburg. Most of the big names are missing this week, obviously last week before Wimbledon. There are some exceptions, though, and one is Iga Swiatek. This will be her only grass prep before Wimbledon. We've also got Jasmine Paolini, who lost quite early to Ons Jabeur during the week. Mira Andreeva's there as well, as is Jessica Pegula. Bad Homburg, this tournament is actually underway. We'll put up some outright prices later, but there'll only be a guide. You'll have to wait until later for those prices to go live again. Let's have a look at the tournament. Last year was the first time it was a 500 with Diana Schneider beating Donna Vekic in the final. Before then, it was a 250. In 2023, Katerina Siniakova defeated Lucia Bronzetti in the final. 2022, Caroline Garcia got the better of Bianca Andreescu. And the first tournament in 2021, Siniakova was the beaten finalist and Angelique Kerber took the title. Speed-wise, last year it was identical to Nottingham on the service hold percentage front at 70.5. The forecast is pretty good. Warm and sunny all week, although a bit windy tomorrow. It's a 32-player event with the top 4 seeds receiving buys. Before we get stuck into the draw, Nigel, any thoughts on the tournament?
Well, I've looked at the trends of this tournament, Rory, and obviously it's a tournament before a major. And we're going to talk about Eastbourne as well, the other tournament this week. And usually a tournament before the major, you've got to think of whether the top seeds really are motivated for it. It's a big question that a lot of people ask before the Australian Open, before the French Open, US Open and Wimbledon, the 4 majors. Are the players motivated before a major? We come from a very quick turnaround from clay into grass. Some of these players haven't played. Iga Swiatek hasn't played on grass at all. Mira Andreeva's had no wins on grass, really bad grass court season so far. So the question is, do you look at the top seeds and think to yourself, do they really want to peak too early? Or do they want to say, play a couple of matches and head to Wimbledon fresh? Well, I went through the record here at Bad Homburg, and there's been 4 tournaments, as you said, you ran through the winners. The last 3 years, all of them who've won it have been unseeded. There hasn't been, the only seed that won the tournament was Kerber, who was the number 4 seed. So 3 unseeded players have won this tournament in the last 4 years. So seedings, perhaps going into a majors, aren't as relevant as they are in tournaments on a regular week. I went back and looked at the week before the French Open. The week before the French Open, it was 2 tournaments. It was a tournament in Rabat and a tournament in Strasbourg. In Rabat, both finalists were unseeded. In Strasbourg, Rybakina and Samsonova played with a number 6 and 8 seed. But in the tournament before the Australian Open in Adelaide and Hobart, both finalists were both unseeded. So if you look at the Grand Slams so far this season, we've had 4 tournaments in the week before, and 6 of the 8 finalists have been unseeded. And that, to me, suggests that the players who are seeded this week in both tournaments probably will be having one eye on Wimbledon next week. And that is particular in this tournament here. Iga Swiatek coming here purely to get some match practice for Wimbledon. Mira Andreeva needs a couple of wins. Pegula needs a couple of wins. Samsonova, very disappointed last week in the semi-finals. So I think if you're looking at this tournament, you've got to go deeper down and look for some players outside those seeded players, because the trends before majors, that's where you want to go. You want to overlook the 1s and 2s. I'm going to come on to Eastbourne in a minute, and that trend even backs that up even more in Eastbourne. So look at those top players, those single-figure prices. You might think they've got a chance, but when you delve down and look back in history, seeded players don't do very well week before majors.
Absolutely. Now, looking at the draw, if the quarterfinals go according to the seedings, Jessica Pegula will meet Emma Navarro. Mira Andreeva will play her doubles partner, reigning champion Diana Schneider. Ekaterina Alexandrova will face Iga Swiatek, and Elina Svitolina will play Jasmine Paolini. Dangers in the draw? Well, Paolini could face Queen's champion Tatiana Maria first up if the German gets past Leylah Fernandez. I think they're just about to start in that match. Berlin finalist, the runner-up, Jinyu Wang, is also in that 4th quarter, as is Elise Mertens, who won the Hertogen-Bosch title. She plays Svitolina first up. And at the very top of the draw, if Samsonova gets past a qualifier, she'll have a quick rematch with Pegula. So that looks like quite tough, doesn't it? The 4th quarter in particular looks fiendish.
I thought the top half looked tougher than the bottom half, actually. You got Pegula, Samsonova, Osaka, who did play quite well in defeat last week against Samsonova. Navarro and Kostrick playing each other. I think that match has just finished now. I think Navarro, it was 1-1 before we were recording. So that's going to be finished. One of them is going to be in the top half. Andreeva needs to get some form. Noskova, probably not the player you want to be betting on this surface. Schneider, defending champion. So I think the top half is definitely tougher than the bottom half. And, I'm looking at it above. It's really, it's a very, very easy draw for Iga Swiatek. But at plus 450 a week before a major on grass, which you want to be betting on a fast grass tournament, I think it's going to be hard for her to just come straight in fresh and win this tournament. I know the tournament started, and I'm not going to put an official play up, but I think you want to be betting in the bottom half of the draw. And if I was given a free bet at this moment in time, I'd probably bet Elise Mertens, because she's playing some great tennis. She's got a decent draw. She's got Hadad Meyer in probably round 2. Maria, I think she's probably had her season. Paolini, to me, I don't think she's playing anywhere near what she did last season. And I think Mertens here, but when I saw the price of 12-1, I was really shocked. Jasmine Paolini, a bigger price than Mertens. They've got to play each other in the semi-finals if they get that far, or quarterfinals if they don't get that far. And I'd be mightily surprised if Paolini wasn't favoured to beat Mertens. So, we can't have a bet on this tournament now because the tournament started. But I did like the draw, and I did like the fact that Mertens was unseeded and comes in with probably the best grass court form this season, having won a tournament already this year. And I thought Mertens was a bet. But when I saw the price of 12-1, it quickly put me off her slightly. But I do think the top 4 in the market are well worth fading with the trends in this tournament. So if you're looking for a value, when the draw comes up with Bet Rivers, I think you've got to look in the bottom half of the draw. And I believe you've got to take on Iga Swiatek. So Mertens was a bet for me. Tatiana Maria, because can't see it. Paolini at the price 14-1 does look a big price, but has she got hopes of winning Wimbledon after going to the final last year? So Mertens perhaps knows she can't win Wimbledon. She'd be very surprised if she did win Wimbledon, but she might want to win a 500, get a couple of tournaments under her belt, get some money to sort of at this stage of her career. But at 12 to 1, it's no price. But I do think the bottom half is much more weaker than the top half of the draw.
Yeah, the outright odds, and this was before they started play. Swiatek the plus 450 favourite, Andreeva $6, Pegula and Samsonova $9, Alexandrova $10, Schneider $11, Svitolina and Mertens $12, Paolini 14s, Maria 16s, and it's $22 bar those. Actually, Emma Navarro beat Marta Kostyuk 6-2, 7-5, so she's through to round 2. I thought Alexandrova was interesting, although she has got Belinda Bencic first up. You know, if she did meet Swiatek in the quarterfinals, I would fancy the Russian to win that in these quick conditions. But I couldn't trust her at $10. I thought that was a bit short for my
That match the other week where she had
against
11
Mertens
points against Mertens, that is the match that will haunt me forever. And I put a public tweet out that I would never, ever bet Alexandrova again. I can see it probably being a repeat of that match in the semi-final. That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest, but I'm going to stick by my tweet. I cannot bet Alexandrova ever again, but it wouldn't be a surprise to see her gain revenge against Mertens because she did everything other than get over the finishing line. And that's why I think that bottom half of the draw is the way to play, because the top half is much, much more stacked than that bottom half. And you've got the person in the bottom half, the tournament favourite, who is vulnerable, massively vulnerable.
Absolutely. First match on grass for Swiatek. It will be, and she'll play either Laura Siegemund or a qualifier in that match. So that's Bad Homburg. As we say, no official picks because the tournament's underway. But an interesting tournament and probably as good a field as you'll see in the week. You know, usually the week before the Slam is very weak because most of the players are taking a week off. But as we've seen, you know, Swiatek hasn't had any grass court prep. Andreeva needs grass court prep. Paolini, I think she's played just one or just a couple of matches. She got heavily beaten by Ons Jabeur. So, you know, you've got a lot of players who definitely need some match practice. We'll move on to Eastbourne, and I'm a bit of an old sentimentalist, showing my age here, but Eastbourne as a 250 just doesn't sit right with me. I mean, back in the day, this was one of the main women's grass court tune-ups, if not the main one, before Wimbledon. And you had the Birmingham Classic at Edgbaston. That's now a 125. Second week of the French Open. So, you know, these are good old tournaments. Wimbledon preps have gone by the wayside somewhat. Last year, this played really slow, and I did have to check my figures on this because the service hold percentage, and bear in mind this is grass, was 63.9, so very slow. For grass, certainly, you know, that's a medium hard court speed. And there's a very mixed weather forecast this week. And I'd like to say thanks to Adrian Q on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. He's passing on, it's very windy today for the qualifiers. And it looks like being even more so tomorrow and quite windy most of the week. So anyone with a high ball toss on serve could be in a bit of trouble. With the exception of Wednesday, when you've got rain forecast, it's not going to be particularly warm. Only 20 Celsius, so that's high 60s Fahrenheit. This has been a very old tournament, this. Daria Kasatkina is actually the defending champion. She beat Leylah Fernandez last year. And Kasatkina was beaten in the 2023 final by Madison Keys. Petra Kvitova beat Yelena Ostapenko in 2022. Of course, Kvitova, who's announced her retirement after this year's US Open. Ostapenko won in 2021. She beat Annette Kontaveit. And before the pandemic, 2019, Karolina Pliskova won her second title, beating Angelique Kerber in the final. And the year before that, Caroline Wozniacki won her second title. She beat Arina Sabalenka in the final. We've got a straight 32-player draw here, no buys. And if the quarterfinals work out as per the seedings, Kasatkina will play Emma Raducanu. Sophia Kenin will face fellow American Peyton Stearns. Magda Linette will play Ostapenko. And Rebecca Sramkova will face reigning Wimbledon champion Barbara Krejcikova. Nigel, what did you make of the draw for this one?
Well, again, I think the top half is a little bit tougher than the bottom half. I think the bottom half is much, much weaker. And there's question marks about a lot of players in the bottom half. Jastrzębska is obviously playing in the final in Nottingham. So, you know, that's going to be a difficult thing for her to come straight into this tournament. She may not be at it. If she's at it, she could potentially be a bet here, plus 850. But I'm not quite sure whether she's at it. Ostapenko, I think is even though she's won this tournament, I think in the windy conditions that could get into her head. I don't think she will like that windy conditions. Anyone who's quite volatile, and it's going to be very windy for the first 3 or 4 days here. I think that's going to be a problem for her. So you want someone quite steady. You want someone who's not erratic. Emma Raducanu, not playing, that match that she played at Queen's Club where she was expected to win there, and the performance she put in her last match on grass. I'm not just saying it because I always want to favour Emma Raducanu, but as a tournament favourite, that is a risky proposition to play, especially with someone who's got a problem with her serve. She doesn't really hold serve much. She makes a huge amount of double faults, and in windy conditions, I wouldn't expect her serve to hold up here as well. So there are a lot of question marks about leading contenders here. I do think the bottom half is easier than the top half, and there's lots of question marks about many people in this field, many, many people, and it wouldn't surprise me to see some shocks. If I give you the trends in this tournament, last year, Kazatkina won it. She was the number 6 seed. The year before, an unseeded player won it. Madison Keys was unseeded in 2023.
Wow.
In 2021, Ostapenko was unseeded when she won it. And the last number 1 seed to win it was Wozniacki back in 2018. And if you go back 31 years of this tournament since it started, it's always been the build-up to Wimbledon. So it shows you how the number 1 seeds sort of prioritise it. Only 3 number 1 seeds have won this tournament in the last 31 years. And those 3 players were Wozniacki, Henning, and Jana Novotná. They were the only the number 1 seeds to win it. So just 3 number 1 seeds. So again, very similar to Bad Homburg. I think if you are at the top of the Emmy, but Emma Raducanu, does she really want to win this with Wimbledon around the corner? If she gets a favourable draw, crowd support behind her into the second week, she's got a good chance. She's got back problems, she's got injury problems. Does she really want to go deep in this tournament and risk that all? It's just I just cannot see her, and the way she's playing, I don't think she's good enough. But I think she's a really, really bad favourite here. Just give us the odds, and if you want to run through the order, Rory, I'll give you. But I'm not just saying it because I sound like I'm a Raducanu hater, but I'm not at all. But she's the great British hope ahead of Wimbledon, a warm-up event with a year and a couple of seasons plagued by injuries. Why does she want to go deep in this tournament, get through to the Saturday final, and then play on centre court on the Tuesday at Wimbledon? She wants to get here, get the quarterfinals, have a couple of matches, feel good about a game. There's no reason why she should want to win this. I just don't. I think it's a really, really bad price. And I think she's a really, really bad fade in this tournament again.
Yeah, let's have a look at those odds. Raducanu, as you say, the favourite, plus 550. On Jabeur, $6. Jelena Ostapenko, former winner, plus 750. Diana Yastremska, who actually lost the final today in Nottingham to McCartney Kessler. She's plus 850. Barbara Krejcikova, the reigning Wimbledon champion, $9, but very much with an injury cloud over her. Although we did say that about Marketa Vondrausova before this week, and she won in Berlin. Daria Kazatkina, the defending champion, $10. Peyton Stearns, $14. Same price about Rebecca Sramkova and Sophia Kenin. Anna Blinkova and Magdalene Net, $18. Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova and Marie Bauskova, $20. And it's $22 bar those. You mentioned Ostapenko. The conditions might be against her with the wind. And I think she's up against Sone Kartal in first round. And I think Kartal is Ostapenko's nightmare opponent because she gets everything back. She's a great scrambler. Actually saw Kartal's plus 160 to win that match, and I'm really keen on that. And this being Ostapenko's first match on grass of the season. And as you say, that bottom half is weak, so I quite like Kartal at the prices. Who took your fancy in the bottom half?
She was in my way of thinking because obviously I think Ostapenko with the conditions aren't going to suit her. I think Yastremska obviously having a big week in Nottingham. That's not ideal to come in on a final. So Kartal could get through here. In the top half of the draw, I looked at it and I thought it was a great opportunity for Ons Jabeur. She played well last week. I thought she played really well. She got beat by Vondrousova in Berlin in the round of 16 or quarter final, who
Mm.
went on to win the tournament. So there's nothing disgraceful about that. She's a former Wimbledon finalist twice. She's going to have huge support wherever she goes. She's got the best grass court credentials in the field, which including the champion Barbara Krejcikova. And just on merit, if you look at the statistics on grass court, Jabeur and Krejcikova are head and shoulders above everybody. But then I saw the price on Jabeur at 6-1, second favourite, and I just couldn't bet it. I would be interested in Jabeur if she was double that price, but at 6-1, I think she'd go well. But that is no value at all at 6-1. You know, this is a player that hasn't showed anything really this year, and she's got a potential second round match. You know, Jabeur will play Emma Raducanu in round 2 if they both win their first round matches. So that'll be the clash between the favourite and the second favourite. So one of them's going to go out. And then you've got to run into the defending champion after that, Kasatkina. So 6-1 for Jabeur is no value for me whatsoever. But I do think she could beat Raducanu in the match bet if they met in round 2. I think it's more important for Jabeur to win a tournament and feel confident rather than Raducanu. So Jabeur, I think, is a big runner here, but much better to better in individual matches rather than take the price on her to win the tournament. I like Cartel, as you said there. I think 28-1. I think was the price I saw. I think that's a big price. If she's fit and if she's going well, Krejcikova at 9-1 after what Vondrousova did last week could turn out to be the best bet of the WTA season, without question. But what we've seen from her this season is nothing like what we've seen, and it's clear that she's nowhere near as fit. So again, does she want to? She wants to come to Wimbledon, play that opening match, give a good defence of her title. Does she really want to win this tournament week before? So again, we're eradicating Emma Raducanu. I'm saying Jabeur's too short. I'm getting rid of Ostapenko because I don't think the wind will suit her. Yastremska, I'm saying that she's going to be rather tired. Krejcikova, I'm opposing because she wants to have a good week at Wimbledon. Kasatkina, I'm saying has got a tough draw. So by process of elimination, I've come up with Rebecca Shramkova here at 14-1. That will be my official play. And I'm only going to go small. I'm going to tell everybody this week on the WTA Tour and on the ATP to place very small wagers the week before Wimbledon. We're struggling on this show at the moment. We're giving 50-1 shots that are getting beat in the semi-finals. There's going to be better opportunities to bet bigger. So the week before majors, I'm going to keep it small. I'm going to have a half a point each way on Rebecca Shramkova at 14-1. I think she's got a very, very good draw. She'll get through round 1. In round 2, she'll play Osorio if Osorio wins that match. And that is pretty much a buy. Osorio is not a grass court player. Then she probably play Krejcikova or Jodie Burrage. It wouldn't surprise me if Jodie Burrage gave Krejcikova a match as well. And I think this current version of Barbara Krejcikova you can beat. And then she could play Cartel, Jones, Lynette Magdalene. Nothing really much to beat. She got to the semi-finals last week in Nottingham, where she lost to the eventual champion, McCartney Kessler. And I think at 14-1, she represents a little bit of each way value. So in an easy section of the draw, bottom half, lots of doubts about a lot of key players, lots of question marks whether they want to keep their powder dry for next week. And Shramkova, I think, is a player that will look last week, think she's quite happy. I mean, she hasn't been a fantastic grass court player. She really showed nothing on the grass courts, but it was a good week last week to come to the semi-finals. She's got some grass court experience under her belt, or practice under her belt. She's not going to come here cold like other people in that draw. And I think it's a good opportunity in a weak draw. So I'm going to have a very small bet, half a point each way, on Rebecca Shramkova at 14-1 in Eastbourne.
Yeah, she's definitely interesting. The other one I thought was interesting, bottom half, was Magdalenetta 18s. She plays Yastremska first up, and she actually lost to Yastremska in Nottingham, I think in the quarterfinals.
I think the head-to-heads are like 4-1 to Lynette.
Yeah, I think
it's a very, very heavy head-to-head that she's. No, Lynette's losing 4-1 against Yastremska. I think so. I need to check that, but I was looking at her, and then something put me off, and I'm sure it was the head-to-head that she had against her opponent in round 1.
Yeah, but I think also what will be in her favour are these slightly slower, well, might be considerably slower conditions here at Eastbourne as opposed to Nottingham. I mean, Nottingham was playing 70% service hold percentage, and you're right, Yastremska does have the edge on the head-to-head. I think it's 4-2
Or two. I knew. I looked at Lynette and
No, it's 5-1 actually. 5-1 to
5-1.
Yastremska.
I looked at her as a potential plan, and I looked at the head-to-head. It really put me off because I thought there was a chance that Yastremska might not play here. You know, if she's won the tournament, it's gone quite deep, she might not play, which means the draw will open up, a qualifier will come in. But I just looked at that head-to-head and it put me off slightly.
Yeah. But my pick in the bottom half is Cartal, as I say. I mean, she gave Katie Bolter a run for her money in Nottingham. You know, she's, as I say, she's a scrambler. She prefers slower conditions. She'll probably get those here. She can get cheap points on her serve as well, which is always useful. And as you say, that bottom half looks very weak. I mean, this could all go up in smoke in the first round if Ostapenko's firing, but I've got plenty of reason to oppose Ostapenko in round one. And if she does get past Ostapenko, it's no one really to beat. I mean, Lucia Bronzetti would probably be her opponent in round two, and the Italian did reach the final a couple of years back, but Cartal very much on the up. Then it's probably Yastremska or Lynette in the quarters, and then in the semis, as you say, could be Sramkova, could be Krejcikova, could even be someone like Jodie Burrage, but there's no, unless Krejcikova's firing and fit, then there's no one really to worry about. And I remember in the Monastir final last year, in very slow conditions, Cartal actually beat Sramkova in that final. So I'm quite keen on Cartal. I'm actually going to have a point each way on Cartal because, you know, she's a player who, I think, like you were saying about Mertens in Bad Homburg, she doesn't have a hope at Wimbledon in quick conditions against big hitters. There are no, apart from Ostapenko, there are no real big hitters in this tournament, certainly in her half of the draw. Unless Yastremska goes a long way. And Yastremska, she's a player who I just think is very flaky. And having gone very deep last week, I'd be inclined to be against her. So Cartal at $22, I'm going to go a point each way. And you've got half a point each way on Sramkova. So hopefully they'll meet in the semis and we'll finally have a winner.
Well, that would be nice. That would be a bit like they're probably both going to get the quarterfinals. One to get the semis and then get beat the semi-finals. The way our luck's going at the moment. But if you look at it on grass court stats over 10 years or last 5 years, Ons Jabeur and Krejcikova at 6-1 and 9-1 are absolute knocking bets. But it's just a question of whether you can trust their fitness and their ability anymore. But they are the grass court specialists in this draw, and the conditions will shoot on Jabeur. And I think if Raducanu plays Jabeur in round two and you can get plus money Jabeur, that's where you want to be betting.
It's funny what you're saying about Raducanu because she was favourite against Qinwen Zheng at Queen's. And then Zheng's top 5 in the world and Raducanu isn't top 5. But I think Zheng was plus 120 that day. I couldn't believe that. I know it's grass.
Like mad. There was a huge gamble on Raducanu. Zheng showed nothing on grass coming into it. Jabeur has.
Yeah, I can see
and the conditions being a bit slower will probably suit Jabeur as well. And with the wind, the amount of spin she puts on the ball, the amount of slice she puts on the ball will get into Raducanu's head. It's not a good matchup in wind, Jabeur against Raducanu, and Raducanu's problems with her serve. So I really like that matchup if it happens in round two.
So there we go. That's our look at Bad Homburg and Eastbourne this week on the WTA Tour. Nigel, you're going to be chatting to Sean soon for the ATP.
Yeah, just about to do with the ATP. It's obviously the tournament in Eastbourne as well, in the men's tournament as well. And there's a tournament in Mallorca. And Sean is in Mallorca this week for the tournament, before Wimbledon. So just the build up to Wimbledon, isn't it really? I mean, it's the build up to Wimbledon. I just think you ought to be really careful with your bets this week. Things that might look too good to be true and prices, they might be just trying to entice you to have a bet. Motivation for these players is questionable, and I think you want to be careful. I think if you bet a lot of underdogs this weekend, you'll have good success. And I think the strategy here is to fade a lot of the tournament favourites in the outright markets and try to pick a couple of value outsiders as we've done in Eastbourne.
There you have it. So that's tennis, plenty of other sports and plenty of other shows for you to enjoy with Betting Weekly. Of course, we've got Betting Weekly Tennis Live this week, Monday to Wednesday. Nigel, got the Club World Cup rolling on, so plenty of action there.
I don't know what to make of that. So the boys seems to be, I haven't had one bet on it, but the guys seems to be cashing tickets every time we watch Betting Weekly Live. James Eastham had 6 winners the other day in one day. Lewis Jones has been on fire. Nathan Joyce is a fantastic guy we've got in doing the South American. The guys know what they're talking about that time. I'm having a bump off from football. All about tennis for me, starting from now.
Yeah, as we say, final week before Wimbledon. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure you leave your comments. Tell us who you think will win the tournaments in Bad Homburg and Eastbourne. And make sure you subscribe to the Betting Weekly newsletter. That's it from us for this week. And next time you'll see us, will be the outright. Well, we've got an extra show, haven't we, Nigel? We've got the draw.
We're doing the draw live. Betting Weekly live. We'll be having a live betcast. Well, I suppose it's not a betcast, just doing the draw, looking where the draw, favourable parts of the draw, talking you through who's got a good draw, where the money should be going. You'll be hosting it, Rory. I'll be on as well. And also have Tim Dennis as well going through it. So the three of us will be going through the draw on Friday. It'll be 10 o'clock English time, 5 a.m. Eastern time. So a nice early start. Make sure you're up for that. Watch the draw breaking through Wimbledon. We'll give you the best quarters, the best bracket, where we think the value might lie. The odds will be up a couple of hours after with Bet Rivers, and then we'll be recording, giving you the shows on the outright markets and the best bets on the men's and the women's singles. Looking forward to it. It's my birthday as well, Saturday as well. So coming back from the UK, got Wimbledon to start looking. My birthday as well, and it's all good.
It's all happening, and you can enjoy it all with us on Because We Win. Nigel, thanks again as always, and thanks to you for watching, and we'll see you again not so long, not even next week, in a few days' time, with more Betting Weekly WTA.